What is up, guys? Chase Oliver here, bringing you the Chillin with Chase podcast, the wrestling portion of the podcast. The wrestling feed is finally here on the Chillin with Chase feed on YouTube and Spotify, and I'm happy to be doing this, talk about professional wrestling with you guys. I've been waiting to say, when do I kick off the wrestling feed? When do I say, let's talk about wrestling? Turn on the microphone, turn on the camera, talk about professional wrestling. I was waiting, and I said, you know what? Maybe before Extreme Rules, I'll do a prediction show and everything of that nature. Something came up. I couldn't really film the prediction show. Wasn't really in the mood to film the prediction show. And then Extreme Rules happened. And then I said, okay, RAW Season Premiere. We got some AEW stuff to talk about. Maybe sprinkle in a little Impact Wrestling. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We got a full docket, a huge docket. This might be a longer episode than I planned, talking about some stuff, but happens when you decide to push everything all at once. So if you guys like professional wrestling, you've come to the right place. If you guys like the NFL, you've come to the right place. If you guys love mixed martial arts, you've come to the right place. Hit that follow button, hit the subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, and just sit back and enjoy and chill with Chase. So let's kick off this wrestling podcast, shall we? Let's talk about the latest premium live event from the WWE Extreme Rules 2022. Took place in the home of Extreme, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where ECW once ruled. And I'll say this, normally in years past for Extreme Rules, it's been one of those pay-per-views that we all kind of mock as wrestling fans, be like, what's extreme about this? There's not even an extreme match. We only will get one Extreme Rules match, and the rest of the time, a bunch of matches are singles matches, tag team matches. Heck, sometimes some of these matches end in disqualification. What's so extreme about this? This year, Hunter, Triple H, he delivered. He said, yeah, I'm giving you all these Extreme Rules matches. You're getting them all. We're giving you a strap match. We're giving you a fight pit. We're giving you an Extreme Rules match itself. We're giving you a women's ladders match. We're a Donnybrook match. I don't even know what a Donnybrook match is, but he gave us that. That's what Triple H gave us for this premium live event. And overall, this premium live event, it's one of those hard ones to really suggest to people who are like, okay, I'm getting back into wrestling. Is this the event to watch? It's kind of a hard one to suggest, not because of the nature of the matches. It's because most of the feuds are ending at this pay-per-view. So you gotta hope that these feuds that end get you hooked to watch Raw, to watch SmackDown afterwards. So this premium live event, it was one of those weird ones where it's like the match quality was pretty solid for most of the night. Some of the decisions I wasn't really that big of a fan of. Some of the actual booking in the matches I wasn't a fan of. But it had such a great moment at the end. It was really hard to say what this pay-per-view or premium live event, what would it rank like out of 10? I almost say it was kind of to quote MJF here, a mid type of show. Just a very solid show. Very like, hey, I didn't feel bad. Like I didn't waste like 4 hours on a Sunday night watching professional wrestling. Am I ever going to go back to this show though? Maybe for one moment, but not for the whole show itself. The Donnybrook match was an awesome match. That was probably the best match of the night, bell to bell. But then the rest of the matches, like Ronda versus Liv. I don't know what's Ronda Rousey's problem. She doesn't know how to like use a bat or use a steel chair. The finish just felt rushed. I wasn't even like happy to see Ronda Rousey win. It felt like Ronda Rousey was like the complete heel in this match. Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre was just okay. We had one of Triple H's favorite bookings, interferences. Oh man, that was one thing that annoyed me. I feel like Triple H just loves weird interferences. Like it's just like every match used to have these over the top interferences. The I Quit match had over the top interference. The ladder match had over the top interference. Now, I have nothing against interferences or run-ins of that nature, but if we're gonna do it, we can't have it every match where there's an interference and a run-in. You got to let it breathe sometimes. Some matches don't need interferences or run-ins. Sometimes it hurts, especially who's interfering or running in. It's like, take, for example, the ladder match. I'm a huge Bianca Belair fan. I love Bianca Belair. But man, the booking was just very, very questionable. Very questionable. Damage Control came back. Damage Control made their returns at SummerSlam, especially Bayley, Dakota Kai. After being released from the WWE, she came back. Io Sky felt like she was gone from the WWE, and then this brought her back. And it felt like, okay, we got ourselves a strong women's faction. Bianca Belair has had a really, really strong women's title reign. I wasn't ready for it to end because I really want her to be solidified as the EST. That way, when you decide what her WrestleMania opponent is, whether it's Charlotte Flair or Ronda Rousey, most likely Charlotte Flair, it's a match between two irresistible forces, two immovable objects. Like, you do not know who's going to win the match. That's what I was looking forward to. But what we got instead was Bianca looking way too damn strong. It was a little bit too much with her double KO'ing the women's tag team champions. But then the KOD on the ladder on Bayley, and especially because after she bench pressed the ladder, a bit ridiculous. I just thought it was a little bit ridiculous. I thought it was a little bit too extra, and I did not think that they should have done that to Damage Control out of all teams. Happy that Bianca retained the title, but at the same time, I'm like, then what's the point of Damage Control? Like, when are they actually going to do some damage? When are they actually going to control this damage? You're not doing anything at this point. And if anything, you made your tag team champions look kind of weak, which makes no sense to me. Judgment Day and Edge. This feud has been one of the most annoying feuds to watch. I haven't been a fan of this whole Judgment Day gimmick. I honestly think it stinks. I feel bad for Finn, Damian, and Rhea Ripley. I don't feel bad for Dominic. I'm sorry. I can't feel bad for that kid. Because they're trying. They're really trying to make me care about this faction. They're really making me having to give some sort of empathy for these guys or make me try to hate them, but I don't hate them. These guys keep losing. They lose every premium live event. Everyone always will choose them in their like little predictions. Like, you'll see people do predictions and be like, well, it makes sense for Judgment Day to win here. Yeah, well, it makes sense. They should win, but they probably won't. I mean, the only time these guys were winning was when Edge was the leader. So they decided, oh, it's Edge versus Finn in an I Quit match. And, this match, it was actually good. It was actually a good match. The match wasn't bad itself. Now, the last 10 minutes, that's where this match was actually really, really good. Like, really, really, really good. You had all the Judgment Day come out, do the Triple H interference as he loves so much. Edge fending off the Judgment Day. Man, who's going to save him? Who's going to save Edge from this beatdown? Then Rey Mysterio, of course, he couldn't just run out. He had to have his theme song hit. He had to get that cheap little pop in there for the booyaka booyaka to hit. And then this led to the best part of the match when Dominic Mysterio just beat the crud out of Rey Mysterio. And it's not because Dominic beat the crud out of Rey. It was Michael Cole's commentary. Michael Cole went into the zone. He went into that that Jim Ross hating on Triple H zone. Remember back in the day when Jim Ross would be like, why Triple H? Why Triple H? That go good son of a bitch, Triple H. Like, he would get pissed at Triple H just for breathing. That's what he was doing with Dominic. He was using all these crazy adjectives talking about Dominic and stuff. And the thing was, I felt that with Michael Cole because he is someone that has on air a bunch of times talked about being a loving father and he loves his kids. And especially during the Dominic, Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero feud back in the day, he was the one that was saying, I know what it's like to adopt a child. I adopted a kid. I brought my own kids in. So this felt like Michael Cole was like, oh, I'm showing these people. I know what long-term storytelling is. I know what long-term booking is. I'm going to talk about how mad I am at this kid. This kid got brought in by Ray and Angie. I'm fighting for Ray and Angie in this match. Michael Cole, a lot of times he did not get his proper praises during the Vince McMahon era. But man, ever since Triple H took control and ever since Pat McAfee came into the building maybe a year ago, Michael Cole has just been nothing but great. And this was an all-time performance by Michael Cole. He was literally the MVP of this match. He sold it, especially when Dominic got kicked in the nuts by Edge. He was pissed. He was all like, that brat, you deserve it, you brat. I loved it. I loved Michael Cole in this match, and I love the finish of this match. Because you knew Edge wasn't going to quit nobly. Like, he's a babyface. Babyfaces need to be taken to the limit to quit. You need to do some tomfoolery for the babyfaces to quit. So, Beth Phoenix, she sticks her nose in the Judgment Day's business, and the Judgment Day had to show her what's up. And as Beth Phoenix is laying there, stole that perfectly of just her being unconscious, just like Rhea Ripley, like 2 or 3 times picked her up, and her body just went limp. It's like, poof, like she was dead. They decided, oh, well, let's grab the chairs, and that's when Edge had to say, "I quit." Like, no way, he's not going to let his wife get hit with these chairs. He said, "I quit," and the Judgment Day were like, "Who cares that you said I quit?" Concerto, right over the top of the head of Beth Phoenix, and Beth. Oh my gosh, she got some height. She took that concerto and she jumped in the air and sold that, and the crowd was pissed. They were so upset with what they saw. They were so mad that Beth Phoenix took this concerto. It was great, and they were booing. That was the most heat I saw from that crowd in a minute. And I said, man, this match right here, this I Quit match, it was good. But it took too long. It took too long to get to the good parts. It was kind of like, you waited for the ride at Disneyland. You were like sitting in the line, and the ride, it was fun for like the 5 minutes that you were on there. But you're really gonna sit there and be like, oh man, I want to get back in that line. Nah. That's how it feels with this I Quit match. Like, yeah, the last 10 minutes were good, but I'll probably just like fast forward to the last 10 minutes, not rewatch this whole match from start to finish. Just felt like it was a time filler on this small 6-man card. Fight Pit main event. The only interesting part from the Fight Pit was Daniel Cormier was the referee, and he was chucking Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins into the cage, telling them, "Hey, don't you do that, man. Don't you be breaking these rules now, man." Okay, John Jones. DC looked like he ate John Jones, that's for sure. He'd been enjoying the retirement, man. I think WWE was probably thinking, maybe we'll get DC in for a match, and then they saw him in that referee shirt and they said, "Hey, buddy, maybe go back to AKA for a little bit, slim down a little bit, and maybe we'll get you that match with Brock Lesnar." And it could happen. Those Saudi Arabia shows, they love doing crazy stuff there. But the craziest thing was at the end. For the previous weeks, we've been getting these White Rabbit teasers, and a lot of people like it was pretty much like known. It was pretty much like everyone was in agreement. Like, wrestling Twitter won't agree with a lot of things, but they were in agreement with this. They were just like, this White Rabbit thing has to be Bray Wyatt. It has to be. Like if it's anyone else, it's such a disappointment. But this is most likely Bray Wyatt. This is most likely Bray Wyatt making his return. And after Riddle beats Seth Rollins in the Fight Pit, Matt Riddle's hands is raised. Seth Rollins looks disappointed. The Extreme Rules graphic hits, and then all of a sudden the lights go off and the fans go bonkers. Michael Cole, once again, the MVP of the show, was like, "Corey, are we still on?" Like, freaking out that the lights went out. And then we started to hear, "He got the whole world in his hands," as like all the past Bray Wyatt characters, the Wyatt Six, as these wrestling Twitter accounts are calling them. Maybe it is the Wyatt Six. I mean, he has a 6 in his username on Twitter, but the Wyatt Six was showing up, and all the past characters. Michael Cole even saw the burnt fiend mask, and he ran out of the commentary. And then the door happened. We got some black phone magic. We got some old Firefly Funhouse, the broken theme of it. Wasn't even finishing the song. It was just disappearing as the burnt Firefly Funhouse was there. The remains that was left of this magical place for one Bray Wyatt. And you came back, came through that door, said, "Run." And then that was it. And it was a huge, huge, deafening reaction for Bray Wyatt's return in the WWE. Now, Bray Wyatt, as shown on tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw, will be at SmackDown. For anyone who wants to know my history with Bray Wyatt, I'm not really the biggest Bray Wyatt guy. He's not my cup of tea. But I'm glad that everyone's happy for Bray Wyatt to come out. And I know a lot of people will be making this take, well, Chase, won't matter about this return. Let's see what happens 6 months down the line. Let's see what happens a year down the line. Let's see and here's the thing. sometimes there's moments in wrestling, like, yes, I get it. Sometimes it matters what the payoff is. But sometimes when you have a return like this, who cares what happens next? Who cares? Because it was a moment in time that people got excited for. Look at CM Punk's return. Are we all going to sit here and be like, oh, well, it didn't really pay out for AEW? No, it paid off. It paid off fully for AEW. Sure, everyone's going to look at what happened at AEW All Out 2022 in the Brawl and say, no, it didn't. But man, it got AEW its most exposure. It's one of the highest watched wrestling YouTube videos just in general. Are we going to sit here and discredit CM Punk's return because of what happened afterwards? No. It was a great return. It was a great moment in professional wrestling. That's something that we live for as wrestling fans. We love these moments. That Triple H's return in 2002, another great return. Yeah, it led to Hogan beating him for the undisputed title. Like a month later, he didn't even get a good title reign as undisputed champion. But does that take away from Triple H's 02 return? No, it doesn't. Sometimes there's these returns that are just bigger than the moments that follow it. So Bray Wyatt's return, it was executed really well. It was great. It's something that you'll rewatch time after time after time because of the execution. And yes, everyone's going to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter because 6 months down the line, you'll be singing a different tune about Bray. And I'll say this, maybe, maybe not. But when it comes to how the return was executed, it was still great. Just like CM Punk's return was still great, despite what happened with him 6 months or a year down the line from All Elite Wrestling. I still think it's an all-time great return. CM Punk, we never thought we would see this guy in professional wrestling again, and here he comes coming back to wrestling in front of a crowd that was just going bonkers for him. And it's the same thing with Bray Wyatt. We didn't even know what the future of this guy got. Now, granted, yes, different circumstances. Punk was gone for like 7 years. Bray was really only gone for a year. But returns in professional wrestling, if they're executed well enough, I tend to let go of like, oh, well, what happened 6 months down the line? Who knows? Maybe they figured stuff out. Maybe working with Bray Wyatt, people don't become worse off from it, like Seth Rollins said. Maybe Bray Wyatt turned a new leaf. Maybe Roman Reigns, he just beats Bray Wyatt automatically. Reminds him, you're just a freak in the mask. You were no one before you faced me. Maybe that happens. Maybe Roman Reigns just beats Bray Wyatt right off the rip. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But for anyone who wants to know, I'm not really like the biggest Bray Wyatt guy in the world. I understand why people like him, but for me, I'm just not the biggest guy in the world of Bray Wyatt. The Raw season premiere happened, and it was a very solid episode of Monday Night Raw. I could have done some stuff without it. I could have done without, I don't know, the DX stuff was just very unnecessary. Why did that close the show? I understand maybe because the Bloodline was to set up a match with Riddle and Sami Zayn, but felt like you could have done other things to close the show than DX cutting awkward promo. It just felt awkward. It didn't feel like there was any point to it. Like no new guy came out there to get put over by DX. No older guys. Nothing was built. It just felt like, yeah, let's just say suck it one more time. Like that's what it felt like with this 25th anniversary. And hey, that's you. That's great. But for me, I just felt it wasn't needed. It was definitely the biggest attraction to the show was DX's return, but it was probably one of the weakest portions of the season premiere of Monday Night Raw. But this Raw, it had like a definite, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it felt like a Raw after Mania, but it wasn't really a Raw after Mania compared to like the execution. Like Raw after Mania executions are normally really good. This one felt like, okay, we're in Brooklyn. We normally have a lot of big shows in Brooklyn. Heck, SummerSlam, what, 2-3 years in a row was in Brooklyn. Normally, a very hot crowd is the Brooklyn crowd, and this crowd was in that same realm of very, very hot. And there was a lot of returns that happened in this show. The Good Brothers, they're back. Man. And it's crazy, too. Carl Anderson, at the time of this recording, I don't know if anything changed after the recording. I'm filming literally right after Monday Night Raw. Carl Anderson is still the never open weight champion for New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's kind of weird. I'm like, whoa, isn't he still the champion? Unless New Japan taped something, but I don't think New Japan taped anything at all. the most recent thing that I saw from New Japan is that they showed off their new TV title that looks like a giant ring. Looks like a ring. Like seriously, that looks like a giant ring that's going to go around your waist. It looks horrible. I'll just be honest. It's a horrible belt. The Good Brothers are back after Dominic Mysterio destroyed Rey Mysterio. Probably in one of the best segments that I've seen from Dominic Mysterio, to be honest. Probably the highlight of his career at this point. But Dominic destroyed Rey Mysterio. And then Finn was cutting a promo saying that Uncle Allen, aka AJ Styles, needs to come out and just join the Judgment Day. And AJ Styles came out, and AJ Styles was like, "You're right, Finn. I should just join the Judgment Day. I should rely on my brothers." And then he went on his knee and he hugged Finn, and Finn had like this shit-eating grin, like, "Oh yeah, I got him. I got Uncle Allen." And then Uncle Allen goes, "Well, you're not really my brothers." And then later on, everyone was like, "Whoa." Finn's like, "What?" Judgment Day's like, "What?" And then all of a sudden, the bad version of the Good Brothers team hits, and the Good Brothers came out, beat up the Judgment Day. Finn got his little comeuppance, and now that seems like what we're going is a trios match between the Good Brothers, the OGs. What were they called? The original club, the OCs. The OCs taking on Judgment Day. That's fine. I just don't know, man. Gallows and Anderson, like, why are we bringing them back? Like, was this something that a lot of people were excited for? Because I wasn't. I was fine with them just being on Impact and being in Japan. Promotions I don't really watch as much as WWE or AEW. I was fine with them being there. Are they needed here right now? Is this the AJ Styles move? Is this a Triple H move? I need to know. Because this was just... like I said, I could have done without the Judgment Day. I'll say that. Just like I could have done without Brock Lesnar. Oh man, there was a point in time I would get excited to see Brock Lesnar, and now I'm just at the point where I'm like, why is he back? He keeps coming back, man. Bobby Lashley was set to defend. Well, he was going to defend the U.S. title against Seth Rollins, and then he cut a promo how he was happy to be in Brooklyn, and he's a fighting champion. He will always fight for you. And then afterwards, Lesnar's hit, and then Lesnar came out and he said, "Bobby Lashley," and then just beat up Bobby Lashley. That was pretty much the promo that Brock Lesnar said, and beat up Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley could not answer the bell. He could not answer to fight Brock Lesnar back, and so Lesnar just left. And then I was like, why are we doing Lesnar and Lashley? And I'm like, oh, Saudi Arabia. I forgot. Yeah, that's taking place. You would think I would know that the Saudi show is happening, but I keep forgetting that it's happening. It's happening on November 5th. The main event's Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. I'm sitting here. I'm like, oh, man. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But Brock going for the U.S. title, and then Seth comes out, and he's battered and bruised with the ribs, and pretty much Lashley looks like he's not going to be able to wrestle Seth Rollins. And then Seth, he just does the best heel work. He just grabs the microphone and he goes, hey, no. You say you're a fighting champion. You're going to fight me. You're going to fight me. And just egging Lashley on. And then the best part is when he goes like, as you guys know, Lashley used to be in the military. Lashley is, a veteran of this country. And when Seth goes, "You're letting this country down. You're not just letting these people down. You're letting down the United States of America." The most U.S. champion Bobby Lashley goes and he fights in the ring. That was perfectly done. It was like a Money in the Bank cash in, but Seth Rollins needed that U.S. championship match. And it was a nice, quick, fun little like Money in the Bank cash in type of match. Super panicky, bunch of great near falls. It was good. It was probably like my favorite portion of Raw tonight. There's a lot of bad on this Raw too, like the Dexter Lumis stuff. Like I like Lumis, but this Miz and Lumis feud, I don't know where it's leading towards. It's just absolutely horrible. I'll just leave it at that. But I really like this, and it led to Seth Rollins, becoming the United States champion, the new United States champion. So good for Seth. It's first title in like quite some time. They had the stats on Raw. I was halfway paying attention. I was checking the Chiefs and Raiders score at that time, so I was like, oh, let me see that. So halfway paying attention to when the last time Seth Rollins held a belt in the world of WWE. Other than that, the Bloodline came out, just led to a funny segment where Sami Zayn was trying to make sure that Jey Uso was on the same page. Yeet. And I don't think there was anything really too crazy else that I want to talk about. But like I said, Bray Wyatt most likely will be no, Bray Wyatt will be on SmackDown, but I don't know what brand he's going to be most likely on. So we shall see. AEW backstage news, man. This has been a topic for quite some time. A lot of people have been talking about the AEW backstage. You know, the thing with AEW is this, man. Their on-screen product going pretty smoothly. It's just what's ever going on behind the scenes. That's the only thing that is not going smoothly for All Elite Wrestling. If you guys don't know, back in September, the All Out press conference, CM Punk, Ace Steel, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega got into a brawl. People have been calling it Brawl Out. It seemed like there was some tension in the AEW locker room. People just wanted to fight each other, but lately it's been kumbaya in the locker room. But not for one man. And that man is Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara and Eddie Kingston got into a fight a few weeks back, and that was during the Brawl Out stages where there was backstage. Like there was a lot of crazy backstage rumors going on in AEW. Like I guess Thunder Rosa was hiding in a bathroom from Jamie Hayter. That was one of the craziest rumors going on. And you know, we were hearing Eddie Kingston was slapping Sammy Guevara. We're like, what the heck is going on back there? Then Brawl Out happened, and then it calmed down. Like it felt like okay, there's no more craziness happening in All Elite Wrestling. Oh no, Sammy Guevara, he got bored. He was like, what's this, man? No one hates each other anymore? That's how it felt like Sammy was doing. So Sammy decided to respond to Andrade. So Andrade did an interview, and he pretty much said in this interview that Sammy Guevara does not like to get hit. And that Sammy complained about getting hit by Andrade because Andrade is a stiff worker. Sammy Guevara did not like this, and especially because Andrade just threw him under the bus too, because he goes like, "Oh yeah, Sheamus, he likes getting hit." Heck, the Miz has never complained. Miz will scrap and throw down, and you know John Cena, one of the top guys, he never said anything. So Sammy got mad at this, and he decided to tweet out, "You're nothing but a favor hire. You're a jobber," and everything of that nature. This led to Andrade saying, "Hey, I said this to your face. You know, let's talk Wednesday." And then Sammy Guevara goes, "Hey, no, you never said anything to my face. You know this, yada, yada, yada." And this led to pretty much Andrade saying, "I'll see you Wednesday then," saying, "Hey, I'm about that life. I'm literally going to come and knock you out." That's what that was Andrade's intent when he was going to enter an AEW and All Elite Wrestling building, was that he was going to go find Sammy and either talk or, you know, decide to go for a punch. Who knows? We don't know. AEW warned Andrade that, hey, if there's any fight, you're going home. And Andrade was like, "Oh, you want to send me home with my wife? Bet." And so Andrade did not care, decided to go to Sammy Guevara. We don't know the whole details, but we just know that Andrade most likely got some punches in. And this is one of those scenes where it's like you kind of, if you're hearing this, you're like, "Oh man, yeah, dude, this Andrade guy sounds like a problem." But really, to be honest, this is a Sammy Guevara issue. When we go back to Impact, when we go back to, you know, early AEW, this has been an issue with Sammy Guevara. If you guys remember the Inner Circle storyline, Sammy Guevara was supposed to leave the Inner Circle, leave AEW, felt like he was done, and he was going to go to Impact Wrestling, become their X Division champion, and kind of help Impact Wrestling a bit. That's when the AEW and Impact, they had a nice little working relationship. Felt like Sammy Guevara was going to go to Impact Wrestling, and it was going to be, you know, Sammy Guevara as, you know, like, oh, one of the major faces of Impact Wrestling. He'll be the X Division champion. But then it didn't really work out because Sammy Guevara did not like the idea of losing at all in Impact Wrestling. Like, wait, you want me to lose at Impact Wrestling? I'm in AEW. And this led to many an Impact upset. So they scrapped that whole idea. Sammy came back much sooner to the Inner Circle. And it felt like, you know, Sammy was on the right track. You felt like Sammy Guevara, he was going to become like the leader of the Inner Circle. I mean, he had that great match with Miro. He beat the unbeatable Miro. Like Miro, that was cutting these great promos saying, "Oh my God," and everything like that. I loved it. That was a great run by Miro as TNT champion. And Sammy Guevara ended up winning it. And it felt like, you know what? Sammy, he is the TNT champion. This guy's the babyface AEW need. He's going to be one of the young faces of AEW. Heck, he's already one of the 4 pillars. What could go wrong? And then a fight with Eddie Kingston happened. And a lot of people will say, well, Eddie Kingston kind of a loud guy. But, we never really, Eddie Kingston will cut these shoot promos, right? And he'll be like, I don't like this guy. I hate this guy. Yada, yada, yada. But no one really, goes out of their way to trash Eddie Kingston. No one has said, oh, Eddie Kingston's a problem backstage. Maybe CM Punk, but no one else has. That's the thing that really threw me off. Was I'm like, really? Eddie Kingston and Sammy? Normally Eddie Kingston, especially when he works with the younger guys, he works better with them because they don't hate him. They want to work with him. He gives them great advice. That's kind of one of the things that they kept him in when he was in Evolve was the fact that he was working with these younger talents. Heck, even Impact Wrestling, that was kind of his main shtick was working with the younger talents. So that was kind of weird when that fight happened. So it's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You can't fool me 3 times, Sammy Guevara. You're the issue in this situation, man. And the crowd, they were on Team El Idolo there. Idolo. They were booing, they were cheering. And I felt it was so tone deaf by Tony to go ahead and throw Sammy Guevara in the main event. Not just throw him in the main event, have him win. Now, with this Andrade fight happening, a lot of people were saying, oh, I bet you he started that fight so that way he could get out of his contract. And really, to be honest, it's not that simple. Tony Khan's not going to fire Andrade unless he does something horribly bad. And a lot of people do not understand that releasing these guys doesn't solve any problems whatsoever. And in fact, it would probably be a loss on Tony Khan's behalf, releasing these guys and letting them go to the competition. It just makes no sense. These guys' market value right now is higher than they have ever been. Andrade, Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews. These guys right now have a high demand value. And Tony Khan knows this. And Tony Khan knows that, hey, they were just in AEW. If I release them and I let them go, yeah, oh, cool. People are going to say, what a nice guy Tony is. He lets these wrestlers go. And then they go to WWE, and let's just say they start making some money for the WWE. Tony Khan's going to sit there and be like, man, I just lost some dang money. I did not get any return on my investment. And as a businessman, that makes no sense. Why would you sign someone and not expect at least to get something back from them? And especially with the big money that those 3 individuals are probably making. And plus, I've never worked for a company. I've been released by a company before, and I still got a severance package. Now, I don't know if wrestling contracts are like that, but there has to be some severance package, right? Because I think the only way you don't get a severance package is if you get fired. But then afterwards, lawyers and stuff can get involved. There could be some unlawful termination bullshit, stuff that I probably would not even understand. But that's one of those things where it's not that simple. Tony Khan can't just release these guys. A lot of people think, I just released them, we'll be fine. No. Release them now when people are talking about them. Release them now and people are counting down the days they come to WWE. Release them now where they help WWE make money. That makes no damn sense. How does that benefit Tony Khan? Oh, well, Chase, it benefits them because they were in it. No. All it does is benefit them, the talent. At the end of the day, the wrestlers need to understand, hey, when you signed that contract, you signed that contract. You signed to be a part of All Elite Wrestling. Find other ways to work through that contract if you don't want to wrestle for Tony Khan. Use the system that's provided to you that Tony Khan brings with the coaches and everything like that to maybe try to talk to Tony Khan. That's the best answer. That's the best solution to all these wrestlers wanting their releases from All Elite Wrestling. But speaking of Tony Khan, that Tony Khan and Ariel Helwani interview, man, I hope Tony's putting in his offer for Dancing with the Stars, because man, he was tap that sin from Ariel. I mean, I made a tweet about it, and Ariel Helwani actually responded to this tweet. Ariel Helwani saying, "I'll be remiss if I did not ask you, how's breakfast?" And Tony Khan going, I don't want to talk about it. Thanks for asking. I know you got to ask, but I don't want to talk about it. Well, what about lunch? Oh, once again, thanks for asking, but I don't want to talk about it. That was pretty much most of the interview. Unless Tony wanted to talk about something, pretty much most of the interview was Tony Khan just tap dancing, saying, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Oh, I can't, or I don't want to." Some of the stuff was interesting, of like picking and choosing of what he didn't want to talk about. Now the brawl, CM Punk, everything of that nature. Yes, I understand not talking about that. That's not what I'm talking about. But MJF's contract situation, he can't even just kayfabe it. He can't really just give us an answer and just be like, "Oh yeah, you know what, MJF, he's a free agent in 2024, and it's gonna be interesting." Like, can't just BS us like that. No, no. Instead, he's nervous. He's like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about MJF. I don't want to talk about that whole MJF saga. No, let's just leave the memories alone, Ariel. Let's just move on from that. We don't even talk about that." Yeah, he has no problem pumping his chest, like reminding us that Adam Cole and Malachi Black, they're there for 5 years. So kind of weird. Like you can talk about Adam Cole and Malachi Black's contract situation up in the public, but MJF's, that was too sensitive a conversation to have. Okay. And then later in the interview, Ariel Helwani, asks about Cody Rhodes, and did not even ask about trying to keep Cody Rhodes or any of that nature. Literally asked, "What did you think about Cody Rhodes returning to WWE?" And Tony Khan went on and pretty much was like, "Oh, you know what? I don't want to talk about that." And Ariel was like, Ariel's face when that happened was like, "What the heck?" Like, of all the things that I've asked you, this is the one you don't want to talk about. So Ariel goes, "Okay, why don't you want to talk about it? Was there a falling out between you two?" And he goes, "I just don't want to talk about it." And then he goes on and he says that he's happy for Cody and happy for Brandy. They're great people. And then Ariel goes, "So how come you don't want to talk about it?" Like, he pretty much just asked the question of, "Then how come you don't want to talk about them?" And it's just, Tony Khan did not give any concrete answers. And it's just frustrating because Tony Khan is one of those guys that, has portrayed, especially on Twitter, to be a very transparent person, a very, very fair and transparent person. Tony Khan has portrayed that on Twitter. It's not like Tony Khan has portrayed himself as someone who is not transparent. He has portrayed himself as a transparent person. He has portrayed himself as someone that is not afraid to tell us anything. Like, hey, you guys have a question? Go ahead and ask me. I'm going to answer it. That's how Tony Khan has portrayed himself. Here in this interview with Ariel Helwani, it was so bizarre. And Ariel Helwani is one of those guys a lot of people don't understand. Like, I was seeing a lot of people, talk about Ariel Helwani, and it's like, bro, I'm a mixed martial arts fan. I pretty much grew up on Ariel Helwani, watching him since high school. Dude don't care. He's going to ask questions to anyone. This guy was pissing off Dana White for years. This guy was like going to like actual fighters' faces. Like Mayhem Miller almost like attacked him in his own studio. He had James Toney, one of the best boxers, try to steal his microphone from him, and he was fighting against James Toney for the microphone. Ariel Helwani, one time in his career, waited 58 minutes, no, probably longer, 2 hours, I think, outside of a club to meet Floyd Mayweather. So if anyone's gonna say, "Oh, well, Ariel Helwani," no, y'all don't watch Helwani, y'all don't know Helwani, and I've been someone who's been critical on Ariel Helwani. I've been critical about sometimes Ariel Helwani and how he does things. But for anyone who felt like, "Oh man, this was going to be an easy interview," no, this is Ariel Helwani. Ariel Helwani thinks like a fan. He asks the questions that a fan would ask. That's what Ariel Helwani does, and he's asking these questions. Hey, he doesn't know when he's going to get Tony Khan again. Ariel Helwani is one of those guys too. He's transparent about his feelings. And really, to be honest, Tony Khan did not really give Ariel much in this interview. It was actually really embarrassing. And the best part of the interview was when Ariel, he caught Tony Khan. He caught Tony Khan. He asked about good old Jolly Saint Nick Khan. That's about Nick Khan. Tony Khan said, "Oh, I never talked to Nick Khan." And then afterwards, Ariel said, "Oh yeah, remember when you were doing those Impact Wrestling segments? That was your character, right? That was your wrestling character. Why won't we see more of that on TV?" And Tony's going, he's rambling. He doesn't know what he's really saying. He's talking about New Japan, and then Ariel goes, "Oh yeah. What about that New Japan theme?" He goes, and that's what I told Nick. It was nothing personal. And then later, Ariel goes, "So you have talked to Nick Khan?" And then Tony, like face was like, "Oh shh." So I wasn't supposed to say that. I actually talked to Nick Khan. He goes, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." Yeah, I did once. I never met him. And then pretty much try to like gaslight Triple H and Stephanie, like saying, "Oh yeah, they liked me when I was in football." He said that like 3 or 4 times. Like this was supposed to be some important theme. Like we know they don't probably like you now. You're a competitor. The only good thing he said in that whole interview was talking about what a challenger brand is. I thought that was the only thing that I was like, yes, finally, wrestling fans, you understand this is like market terminology. Like especially when like wrestling fans want to talk about something, take a marketing class at least, so you guys can understand sometimes when certain people are saying stuff. It's just sometimes a marketing class helps. And when Tony Khan was talking about that, I felt that was genius. Other than Crozier's interview, I'm excited to see what Ariel Helwani's thoughts are on that interview. Most likely, he will give us those thoughts Wednesday, maybe later. Who knows? But on the nose with Ariel Helwani, he does the MMA hours. I don't know why I'm plugging Ariel Helwani. He has more viewers and more subs than I do. But if you guys are interested in what he may have thought about that Tony Khan interview, might be coming Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that. And to wrap things up here today, guys, I just wanted to talk about Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory. I grew up a huge TNA fan. TNA was the one thing that I always tell people there's 2 things that saved me from not watching wrestling ever. And that was John Cena and TNA Wrestling. John Cena was a fresh character for me. I really like John Cena as a character. Yeah, I know a lot of people have their love-hate with John Cena, but I like John Cena. And TNA Wrestling was just kind of like this weird unicorn that came in my life, and I just loved it. And it's such a shame to see where Impact Wrestling is at, where they're at now in the wrestling universe, where they just feel like a nice little developmental brand for wrestlers, where it's like, hey, we don't want to go to AEW, we don't want to go to WWE, but let's practice our craft here in Impact Wrestling. You know, it doesn't have the same name or the same presence as it did in the past, but it's still a company where it's like, hey, if you held that belt, or if you're an Impact champion, or you're a champion for that company, you know, it's a nice little resume builder. Is Impact Wrestling nice little resume builder that company is. Bound for Glory, though, it's one of those things where they just haven't learned from their mistakes. They haven't learned like why a lot of wrestling fans are not tuning into this promotion, and why a lot of wrestling fans are not excited for what Impact Wrestling brings to the table. And I always tell people, for wrestling promotions specifically, you want people to like pay attention to everything else, you gotta get your main event scene right. The main event scene is the meats and potatoes of your brand. I always tell people boxing's the best when heavyweight division's best. I always say that with the UFC too. Now, UFC's kind of changed a little bit. More characters are in the lighter divisions. But normally the tradition is heavyweight championship boxing is what helps. Same with heavyweight championship mixed martial arts. And same with professional wrestling. I really do feel it matters who your top guy is. That's why I feel like WWE and AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling as well, that's why they're the cream of the crop. They have a great heavyweight division. They have great heavyweight champions. Jay White, Jon Moxley, Roman Reigns. Josh Alexander is a really good talent. I'm not trying to say Josh Alexander isn't a good talent. It's the booking around him that makes the heavyweight division weak. And especially when we're booking Bully Ray to go after Josh Alexander for the Impact Wrestling Championship. Now, that wasn't the main event, folks. The main event was actually Eddie Edwards versus Josh Alexander, and they actually had a really good match. But at the end of the day, sometimes you always remember that good match. A lot of times we see a lot of good wrestling. Like that's the thing. Nowadays, the standard of wrestling, you gotta be really incredible for like a good match to stay put in your brain. Like for example, AEW puts on a lot of good matches. But you know what match is still in my brain after all these months? That tag team match at Revolution. Heyman Adam Page, Kenny Omega versus Young Bucks. That match, I could just remember every single little spot in my head. And I've only seen that match 3 times. 3 times. Not that much, but I've seen it 3 times. And still, like, I remember stuff. I remember spots from that match. And then you also look at MJF versus Darby Allin, another match that I remember. I was just like, oh man, that was great. It's rare when sometimes matches just live in your head. You can kind of just remember the pictures and the images. You kind of feel something with the matches. That's the thing with that. That's the thing with wrestling. Like a lot of times, like good matches nowadays are just like, it's kind of horrible to say, but good matches nowadays are just good matches, and it's like we're so used to them that you gotta blow us away. And Josh Alexander is a really good talent, but a lot of times his matches don't really blow me away. It's like, oh yeah, that was a good match. Yeah, that was cool. And then T minus 1 day from now, I don't remember it. I don't remember spot permit, permit. I don't remember like anything. So then, you have Josh Alexander. His challenger pool is very weak. And then a lot of times his challenger pool is not even feuding for the belt. They're deciding to go feud for other things, like other titles, digital media titles, X Division titles. So this is where Impact's we're at, where, they haven't built anyone up. They have great talent. They have Chris Bay, very good wrestler. Steve Macklin, another really good talent. Heck, Ace Austin. Ace Austin was a guy that really, really was like, a lot of people, that watch Impact Wrestling, they were fans of Ace Austin. They were like, oh, this guy got next. Ace Austin got next. Ace Austin is the next, face of Impact Wrestling. He went out and he did the New Japan Best of the Super Juniors, and he was probably one of the MVPs of that whole tournament. Saw nothing but Ace Austin, Ace Austin, Ace Austin, Ace Austin. So I said, okay, let me check it out. And I said, yeah. He was inducted into the Bullet Club. Chris Bay's in the Bullet Club. It's the Baylet Club. And those three that I just named, like, where do you think they're at? What do you think their positions are in Impact Wrestling? Well, they're not positioned well enough to fight for the world title. In position to be future world champions for this company. Instead, they're kind of positioned to just be all right. And that's the issue with Impact Wrestling. The positioning of some of their young crop of stars. They should have challengers lined up for days for Josh Alexander, or have someone that could beat Josh Alexander. But instead, because, they're trying to sell pay-per-views, they're trying to sell, things that people need to buy, they have to do these matches with former names. Eric Young. No offense to Eric Young, good talent, but we really still have lining the pay-per-view with Eric Young at this moment in time. We need Eric Young to help boost the number, if it did boost the number at all. Eddie Edwards. That's a familiar name, at least. Like I said, Alexander and Eddie Edwards. Heck, Eddie Edwards is one of my favorite Ring of Honor champions, Ring of Honor wrestlers. I like Eddie Edwards. I have no problem with the guy. I like him, but we're really doing this now? This is like 2 years too late. Heck, Eddie Edwards should have been the guy that when Kenny Omega was becoming the belt collector, he should have been Mr. Impact, not Rich Swann. So we're just a little bit too late on a lot of things. And here comes Bully Ray, the challenge now for the Impact Wrestling title. and Impact wonders why they're in this position. And Impact Wrestling fans will be like, well, there's other stuff that's good. And here's the thing. Sure, there may be other stuff that's good, but newer fans are not going to tune into that other stuff if your heavyweight title, the most important prize in your company, isn't good, if the storylines aren't good. I know a lot of people will say, well, that's not cool, that's not fair, but that's just how it is sometimes. The heavyweight championship is one of the most important things in not just pro wrestling, but all of combat sports. And if your heavyweight division is weak, you cannot expect people wanting to tune in and watch Impact Wrestling. That's just a fact. It's a shame because I have such a little soft spot for TNA. I didn't even know Bound for Glory was happening this past weekend. It was happening on Friday. And it's like, oh yeah, let's put this on Friday when WWE SmackDown is on. Their flagship show now, SmackDown. When Battle of the Belts and AEW not Grand Slam, Rampage is on. Yeah, that makes sense. Come on, Impact. But yeah, that was just a little thought that I want to end this debut episode of the Chillin' with Chase Wrestling Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed the video portion. I hope you guys enjoyed the audio version of this podcast. There's so far no set date for the podcast, but I will try my best to at least get you guys 2 of these a week. So that way you get 2 wrestling podcasts a week on the Chase Oliver channel. And make sure you guys hit the follow button, the subscribe button, the like button. However you found this podcast, share it with your friends and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Remember, guys, just like the returning Brock Lesnar, sometimes you don't have to give a shit in life. Yow.